Do you have a minute for Comadre time?
Hola Comadres, welcome to another episode of Comadreando podcast. I'm your host Marcy, and today I'm joined by an amazing guest. Her name is Alvarys, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Who are you?
Yes, Alvarys Santana, but we are in America, so now we say Alvarys. um, but I am born and raised in the Bronx. However, I spent a very long time in Dominican Republic as a child, did my first couple of years of school there. So yeah, Bronx native.
Uptown, baby. So today's topic is important because there has been like a major overhaul with the system of education with respect to how children are learning how to read. So over the years, I don't know que ladrones, I don't know what charlatans sold this system of reading to the Department of Education, but everybody bought into it. So basically, what they were doing is that they're having the kids guess how to read words. They're not teaching the kids phonics. They're not teaching the kids how to sound out words. And the parents are relying on the school system to teach their children how to read. So me and Alvarys are going to be getting into that. And then we're going to be talking about her amazing books that she published. But before we start on that, is another reason why the topic came up is that a lot of the moms, the autism moms from that are part of the community, have been asking me how I taught my son to read. And according to the Department of Education, I taught him in an incorrect way, and we're going to get into why it's quote unquote incorrect. So, Alvarys, before we get into the topic, let's cover the basis. What is your profession?
Yeah, so right now I do work in corporate America, and I am a senior business project manager within the marketing organization.
Okay, awesome. And what made you decide to pursue that career?
Money. No, just kidding. I'm passionate about process, about steps, how you go about doing things. But also I found that I was really good at identifying the individuals that needed to be there in order to get something done, which is essentially what you do for projects and programs.
Amazing. I love that. So now getting into what you do, like on this, not I guess not on the side, like what's your like passion business? What made you decide to create the consulting agency? And tell like the Comadres a little bit more about what it is and what you do and how you help schools.
Yeah, absolutely. So it really started at corporate. So I actually say that this is a profession that found me versus me founding it. So at corporate, they usually have a lot of different workshops where they partner up with different schools, different community teams, a lot of universities, and just in general, anywhere where there's going to be a large group of students. And it's mainly for influence so they can learn about the company, the culture, and how to get into corporate if that's something they desired. However, I started seeing that a lot of these different workshops that I was going to speak on behalf of different companies, a lot of these students, like they were lost. They had no idea how to go about certain things. And majority of the students that were experiencing this, they were minorities. I mean, they were either Latinos or African Americans, and they had serious questions for me in which they would feel like they had to ask me in private. And it was more like a hush hush, hey, can I ask you this? And I started seeing a problem in that. If you don't feel like you have a voice and you can speak to someone about a real issue or a real question that you have that's going to possibly impact you, then that's a problem. Um, so I branched out and I started doing it on my own, and it was hard at the beginning. I was actually reaching out to schools and telling schools, "Hey, I'll do it for free. I know what I have to do. Just I'm here to help." And after that, it started picking up. It started getting busy where now schools call me. But I would say we're so far away from where we should be, and a lot of these students, they need the help of those professionals that are already out there, and just individuals in general that are ahead of the curve. And what I call ahead of the curve is You just have to know a little bit more than they do. I mean, they're kids trying to navigate the world, and we all have an opportunity to help them.
That's amazing, and I love your business motto. It's escaping me right now. What is the catchphrase that
So
you
it's
have?
so it's actually unlocking educational potential through strategic solutions, which is really, I mean, how can we mix what we know here in this area as adults and just bring it into relative language that these students can understand?
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't go and speak to a student the same way that I would talk to someone in a corporate setting or in
Mm-hmm.
a business setting or at the bank. Like there's different levels of conversations that you need to have with different individuals. I mean, I'm not going to go and talk to my mom like this.
Yeah, no,
I'm
of
like, Ma,
course.
¿qué tú quieres? You know, it's completely different.
Yeah. So I there was something I studied when I was in school to become a teacher, and it's called there's different Englishes and there's different Spanishes. The Spanish that I use with my mom and with my family is completely different than the Spanish that I would use in an academic setting or in a business setting as well. So and it's the same thing goes for English. Like there's different that not what is dialects? I guess that you would call it a dialect. Different types of dialects and languages, ways to express yourself in which you can really, ¿cómo se dice? Like you can really communicate more your ideas and that other people are gonna understand. So definitely. But yeah, no, so I love what you do. And then like there was this one post that stood out to me that it was like, you had the song, it was a Jay-Z song in the background, but you were like, people were like
Yes.
telling you like, oh, tell the kids that you have to tell the kids that college is the best option. It's really not. It's really not. Like college is not the best
Yeah.
option, especially for our kids on the spectrum. Like they
Mhm.
can learn the skills, especially if they have that concentration that a lot of them do have in learning things that they're passionate about. They don't need to have a degree to be able to do the things that they already know how to do, and it's not a requirement. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Mhm.
like, why would you lie to? I would never lie to my students, and I'm glad that you're like, breaking that stigma, because I feel like, especially as children of immigrants. Oh, okay.
But
Go ahead.
I did at the beginning. I did at the beginning. Um, I wanted to get paid by the school. So it was more like, hey, this is what you're telling me to talk about. So sure, I'm going to do it. So I did. I'll be completely honest. I was
Mm-hmm.
telling these students, but then I felt like this is so untrue to what I'm trying to do. Why would I go and tell these kids that it's the only way just because it's in the contract or because a
Mm-hmm.
principal wants me to say, hey, college is the way to go? And it's like, no, it's not. Like in the corporate world right now, I make well over six figures. You don't need a degree to do what I do. However, what you do need to have is communication skills,
Mm-hmm.
problem solving skills, time management skills, and just being able to like understand how process works from end to end. And then
Mm-hmm.
everything else, like you can figure it out, which is what I started telling students. And everyone is like, no, don't tell them that. And I'm like, well, why not? It's the truth. It really is the truth.
Listen, I have a master's degree and multiple degrees and other things, and I can tell you right now, my friends that are programmers that don't have the same amount of degrees are making well over probably double what I make. So how am I gonna how in me and like honestly as a person who thinks and like reasons and uses their logic, how would I lie? Why would I lie to a student? That is not the only way. There are some, obviously, you're not going to be a doctor if you don't get a doctoral degree,
Hmm.
but that is not necessary for everybody. So I would never lie to my students. And I was like you at the beginning. I was just saying whatever it was. I was, playing the fiddle. I was being the Pied Piper, and I was saying
Hmm.
what they were telling me to say because I was also scared about losing my job,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I wanted to know. So besides the consulting agency, I wanted to highlight the fact that you're an author as well, published author. I wanted to know what was your inspiration behind writing those books that you wrote.
Yeah. So I started seeing that My son is 5 years old. He just turned 5 years old. He is actually fully bilingual, reads and writes in both English and Spanish. But we've worked very, very hard to get him there. And a lot of the things that we would do were different activities with the flashcards, sight words,
Mm-hmm.
reading activities, and just focused on things that would make learning fun for him. I never wanted him to feel like, why am I even doing this? Because learning is actually fun if you take out the time to do it. So that's just the environment that we fostered for him.
Mm-hmm.
However, when we started looking at different books and kind of saying, okay, you're becoming a little bit more of an advanced reader. What, what kind of books should we get? And we would get all of these different books, and he wasn't reflected in a lot of them. He didn't
Mm-hmm.
see himself there. There were so many different books that we got that were about animals, about different issues that didn't have any characters that even look remotely like him or that can
Mm-hmm.
give him some sort of hope.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing was I do have a stepdaughter. She is 14 years old, and she was only supposed to see till 2 years old based on her disability, which is spinal muscular atrophy. And
Mm-hmm.
he has a lot of friends that usually come over. But it was hard to explain to kids, like, hey, she's still special in her own ways. You just have to learn how to accept that she's special and know in which ways she's special. So it
Mm-hmm.
was more like, how am I going to do this with children? Children are wild these days. So it was more of being able to write engaging stories that kids will understand, and it started out as something that I just did to my kids, but my kids ended up enjoying it so much that I'm like, okay, need to write books. We need to be, representational. And it literally stemmed from a passion. Like there was nothing behind me that said, I wanted to make money. I wanted to do this. It was just more of how can I make it fun for my own kids? And
Mm-hmm.
my son helped me design the books. Like with the designer that I had, the illustrator, my
Yeah.
son is like, nope, her room is purple. You did pink. We need to change this. And it's like loving the process of doing something versus
Mm-hmm.
just the outcome. Like I feel so satisfied, so in love. Like, oh my goodness, I just love what we created together because it's basically bringing my family into a part of the business in which now I feel like we're all winning.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And representation is so important. I know as a little girl, I really don't remember any books of the characters looking like me or being Latino or being Dominican, and now there has been such an upsurge of like Dominican writers writing our stories and telling our stories and like really showing us, right? Like because there's something to be said about having so there's something to be said about opening a book and then seeing yourself and then having like the author like Juno Diaz writing little Dominicanisms here and there, like sprinkling it in the book. That's representation, and that makes you feel seen and heard. And then not only that, but the stories that have been told, it there was this one book that I shared on the Instagram is Platanos Go With Everything, and it was written by Lisette Norman, who's an
Yes.
amazing writer. But it is like the little girl looks like me when I was a little girl. I had never had that when I was a kid, and then like I'm as a library teacher, I'm teaching my students. I'm like, wow, look, this is so powerful, and this is why. Like, don't take it for granted. Like it has taken how
Hmm.
many years? 30 plus years for us to be seen in books. You need
Yeah.
to take advantage and
Yeah.
show like administration, you need to show the Department of Education this is what we want. And we want to be seen and we want to be heard and we want to be able to tell our stories. So that's how come I feel like what you have done is so powerful in so many different ways. Can you tell the comadres the titles of the books? And you could show them on screen. I'll let them know that they can check out the YouTube
Absolutely.
channel.
So I would definitely, and let me just turn a little bit. So this is not going to be released till like the end of the year, which is my poetry book. And
Oh,
it's Azúcar y Sal.
I love
Yeah,
it.
so this is my baby. It's literally like all my feelings, all my emotions in one. And the book is just based on 60 different poems. 30 are good, 30 are bad memories, and it's just how all the good and the bad has shaped me to be who I am. And it's just something that we have to embrace along the journey. So this is definitely a baby. And if you can see the cover, um, it's literally like you're pouring sugar and salt in a heart. The heart is breaking, and in the back, you see all the damage that has
Oh
been
my
done. But hey,
gosh.
we're here to stay.
Yeah, of course.
So, this is definitely a baby for me. So I have this one. My sister is special. So this one is really all about Kaylee, which is my stepdaughter, and Ken is basically introducing her to his friend. So yeah, this is
Amazing.
the first book I ever wrote for children. Um, I have Meet My Daddy. Meet My Daddy is really about Ken introducing his dad to his friends and how his friends don't need to be scared about how he looks or what he wears based on what they hear out there. So it's more about bringing in those racial issues, but just breaking it
Mm,
down in children language where it's just about, hey, we don't judge based on what people look like,
I
you
love
know.
that. Yeah.
I like to learn. It really focuses on like multicultural stories and learning about how you
Hmm.
like to learn, but also how do we bring in those daily little elements and incorporate it into like other cultures that we don't even know. So like pizza. Pizza is really big in this book. Pizza is not American, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
it's Italian. So just bringing little elements because you also don't want to overwhelm kids, but just
Yeah.
bringing in tiny little things that they'll be able to remember those details. I have Grandma is my favorite. This book is faith based. So my stepmother, not my stepmother, I'm sorry, my mother-in-law, she is very faith based, focuses a lot on the Bible and God. And
Hmm.
I know that recently that's been a topic where individuals are like, hey, we can't talk about that in school, and it's like, that's cool, you do what you do, but we believe in God on this side, so I don't know what
Hmm.
you believe in. And it's just more how you start introducing that to a kid. And it's not very heavy like based on prayer or anything, but it does show like the kneeling, the praying, the bowing down. My last book, I actually don't have it because I gave away all my author copies to different libraries so that they could start
Oh.
seeing it. But I think, Marcy, this is the one that you're going to love the most. So it's Mama Speaks Spanish. And the book is actually both English and Spanish. And it focuses around my mom. My mom is really trying to navigate the culture with my son because she says we're not going to have a kid that says yo no sabo, but
Yeah.
you know how that is. And it's really multicultural, multilingualism. A lot of these kids, they focus only on English, on one language, yet we go abroad to all these different countries, and you have kids that speak three, four, five different languages, and it's
Hmm.
actually real.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of these babies. I have different books that I'm working on, but I want to make sure that I want kids to understand it doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from. Like, you are seen, you are heard, and also you can be anything you want to be. Like, there shouldn't be any limits imposed on you.
Yeah. I love that. I love that so much. And the fact that you're like obviously Latina and you're a woman and you're now an author is like amazing. So I wanted to touch base on the article I sent you, right? So about the
Hmm.
revolution around the science of teaching reading, right? So I don't know if the comadres know, but for the people that don't know, that are not involved in the educational arena or don't have children, um, basically the way that me and you learned how to read when we were little, like phonics based, and we were getting the letter sounds and putting them together and blending that and reading. We were reading nonsense words. We were doing all this other type of stuff. Has been kind of pushed out with the next generation state standards. Actually, no. Before that, Common Core, girl. In Common Core, they were like, "Oh no, you guys are wasting too much time teaching phonics. You need to stop teaching phonics. Like, it's the reading curriculum. They're gonna come reading from their house," which is not true, because the parents are expecting us, the teachers, to teach the children how to read. So this is where the dichotomy is, right? I want to teach my students how to read, yet I have all these expectations that my students are going to be reading and achieving all these goals. So I'm stuck, right? I'm stuck in between a rock and a hard place. So a lot of the times, what I tell parents is like, the best instruction you're going to give your child is for you to sit with your child every day and practice. Because, like, I have 30 other kids in this classroom. How am I going to give them that individualized attention? How am I going to know? Yes, I am very aware as a teacher, and I'm paying attention to everything that's going on in my classroom. However, there's kids that have even more severe needs than like let's say Johnny is like maybe one level behind. They're going to make me focus on the children that are like several levels behind to get them even reading, because there's kids that come in from their house that they don't even know how to handle a book. Something as simple as holding it upright, holding it with the spine to the left, and holding the pages to the right. Like, there's kids that don't come in with that, con esa destreza, what is it, with that skill. So parents need to know that it's important. Like, and then now people are noticing, like, oh my God, the kids are not reading, they're just guessing. And this was all due to the pandemic. So there's this amazing podcast that I'm going to suggest for parents to to listen to rather. And it's called Sold a Story. So this is an investigative journalism around the phenomenon during the pandemic, that a lot of these parents with these kids in these very expensive schools were noticing that the kids were not actually being taught to read. The teachers were giving them the expectation of guessing what the word is, or what do you think goes there, what makes sense. But the kids were not actually being taught to sound out the words. They weren't being taught phonics, right? So there was these parents, it became an uproar, right? And justly so, right? If you're sitting down and it's a pandemic and you're watching your kid and they're supposed to be quote unquote reading, but they don't know the basic mechanics of how they're supposed to read, I would be upset too.
Yeah. But let me ask you something, Marcy. I have a question for you. While you're going through that, this just sparked, because I ask everyone this, and everyone I ask the question, they fail. So I'm going to test it out with you. You're a teacher, correct? You're an educator.
Yes.
Okay. What's a teacher? Describe to me a teacher.
Somebody that helps someone learn.
Okay. And what else?
You're modeling behaviors for the students so that they can learn based on what you're modeling for them. And
okay. Which is all correct
as well.
Correct. And that's the perfect answer if we are looking at it just from the education perspective. But if you go into this other side, a teacher is a mother, a daughter, a sister, or a brother. They have a life just like you. They deal with pain, stress, anxiety, and everything else just like you. So we have parents saying that, hey, I'm upset my child can't read. Well, you're the first person that's supposed to identify that your child can't read, not the teacher. And I know that parents listening this, they're not going to like it, and it's okay. But if a child can't read, what are you doing about it? Because then that means that your child needs extra help. And Marcy, there's nothing wrong with needing extra help.
Exactly.
Hey, sometimes I need extra help with something. But how are you fixing those issues and identifying where the gaps fully are? Exactly. It is not a teacher's responsibility to do that. A teacher has a curriculum that is set by the state. And I'm going to tell you this, and any state, any city that I work with, I hope they understand this. Their standards and my standards for my children are completely different. Yes. I don't care what standards you set. I know what standards I'm going to operate with within my household. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes your standards aren't it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they're not it. Kids and teachers, like, teachers have gotten away from teaching what long and short vowel sounds are. Like, just because the curriculum says, nope, breeze through it. We can't do this. I mean, Marcy,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I grew up on the Nacho books and IEO. Kids don't
Claro.
know what IEO is. It's like they just know the alphabet. Like, they don't know vocals. They
No.
don't know anything. And I
No,
don't
sis.
blame them because kids are kids. But these adults that we have here, like, what are we doing? We also want to be so innovative in the education world that we forget that the basics got us to where we're at. Like,
Hello.
why are we
Yes.
trying so hard to get away from generations that have built amazing things? Like, it's not all bad. Like, I know I love tech. Like, I really love technology.
Same.
But what are we doing that is helping us advance? Like, the creativity and the power of, like, an idea popping in your own head. Like, that's important. Why are we not emphasizing on that versus thinking we have to be so fast and furious?
Yeah. And then the thing is that these curriculums that are being brought out, first of all, I don't think these people actually work with children ever in their lives. They're coming out of, and then not only that, but they're coming from a place of privilege, and they're not checking their privilege because they're not checking across, across the country and across different social economic divides, whether this is going to be hitting the way that they think is going to be hitting for those students. You know what I'm saying? Like, how am I going to talk to a kid in the city that's a child who is of lesser resources about skiing in the Alps? That's not going to fly.
Mm-hmm.
¿Qué saben ellos de eso? Unless they watch a lot of TV, that's not going to fly. So what I
Yeah.
want to, really drive home is that the first teacher is you. As a parent, you are the first teacher. My son wasn't reading.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't okay. So Aiden and I would practice all the letter sound correspondence, right? He knew long vowels
Mm-hmm.
and short vowels. He knew all his consonants. He knew the vowel teams. He knew the consonant blends. He knew all that stuff. But when it came to blending the words together, there was something that was not clicking for him. So what did I do? I came up with a new intervention. I started looking at research, and I found that there was some children with autism that were better at learning to read when they got the whole word approach instead of breaking it up. This doesn't work for everybody, so I'm not going to tell you that this works for every single child. No. But I did my master's research on that, so I started doing it with my son. So basically, I was giving him vocabulary, and then as I was giving him the vocabulary words, we were going over what each letter said again. Like, he already knew it, but like when CAT's together, it's gonna say cat every time. So that's how he learned how to read. Aiden right now is hyperlexic. He can read college level. He can read the New York Times. He can read in English and Spanish, because that's another thing that people don't realize. Once your child knows the basic phonics instruction of letter sound correspondence, they can apply that to other languages. Or if they know it in their home
Mm-hmm.
language, whatever that is, they can apply it when they're reading in English. So that's another thing I wanna
Mm-hmm.
touch base on too. A lot of before, I mean, I don't know what it's like now, at least for early intervention. For my son, when he was learning to read, they were like, "Oh no, we don't talk to him in Spanish because it's gonna confuse him." There is no language confusion. Children have the capacity of learning 3, 4 languages at the same
Ah.
time.
Yeah, so my son, he's 5 years old and he starts. So we never put him in pre-K, no daycare, none of that. Everything we've done have been through a private sitter or just us here at home.
Mm-hmm.
So at 5 years old, he is starting a program in August, kindergarten, and it's actually 85% Mandarin Chinese. And my mother is like, ay, pero ese muchacho, like, and I'm like, oh, leave the negativity because parents
No.
don't know. I mean, they come from a different generation. She's like, he's going to be confused. And I'm like, no, he won't. And the program is from kindergarten all the way to fifth grade. So by
Amazing.
the fifth grade, he's going to be pretty fluent in Mandarin Chinese. Um, that's one of the languages that is going to dominate the world in the business and everything. I want to prepare my child for anything that's going to come. If
Yes.
it's something that he chooses later down the line, hey, it's not my interest, because I'm also not going to force him. But
Mhm.
we are also going to try to do
You're
these
gonna
different
expose him.
challenging things because, perfect word, my job is to present to you 130 ideas. I don't care which one you grab, but you are going to see so many different things. I always said whether it was a sport, whether it was an activity, whether it literally was something academically that you were gifted at, an instrument, it didn't matter. But we are going to go and see all the different facets of the opportunities because that's how you get your child out there, by them seeing what is out there.
Yes. So I want to add about that. My mom's best friend, her son, studied Mandarin just like your son ever since he was little. And when he graduated college, he was able to get a job out of the country. He was teaching English in
Yeah.
China for a while. He found his wife out there. They ended up, moving back to the States, and he was able to use his teaching degree here in the United States. But, like, if it wasn't because his mom exposed him to that, he would never have even thought
Yep.
of that. It's our job as parents to expose our children to as many things as possible so that they can make the decision, like, yeah, I like this, or maybe that's not for me right now. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely, like, I'm gonna give the comadres the homework. Like, you need to find out what kind of reading instruction is happening in your child's school, because a lot of our kids on the
Yep.
spectrum need to learn how to read first of all, and they need to be getting phonics instruction. Like, I get it, they need to be receiving instruction as close to their neurotypical peers as possible, but the curriculum for the neurotypical students is not serving them either. Because right now there's a
Mm-hmm.
humongous crisis. In that podcast, it says that eight out of 10 African American students in fourth grade are not able to read on grade level. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that is alarming, because in fourth grade they're about to graduate and go to middle school. So these children are leaving the school without really being fluent readers. What's happening? You're seeing an uptick in behavior. They're going and they're working with teachers that are not culturally sensitive, and they're not receptive to where they're coming from
Mm-hmm.
culturally, and they're judging them, right? So what happens to those kids? They start getting shuffled along, or you start getting uptick in phone calls regarding students behavior. But why is a child acting out? There's always a why to behavior, people. Like, there is a child is not going to act out
Mm-hmm.
just to act out, to be a jerk, because that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
If a child is acting out, or you see them, they're it's avoiding behavior because they don't want to perform, it's because they're having difficulty doing it. A child wants to show you what they know, but
Mm-hmm.
if they don't know what you're trying to teach them, it's gonna spike the behavior in the classroom, and that's what we've been seeing,
Yep.
unfortunately. So as parents, we
Yeah.
need to be our child's biggest advocate, and this is gonna be homework for this episode. I want everybody to go out there and ask their children's school what phonics instruction program are they using, and I want you guys to assess your own children, right? Because another thing is that, we're giving all this higher level reading instruction, right? Like with this curriculum. But then when we do the running records, which is a reading assessment that you're supposed to complete every certain amount of time, the students are not performing at the level that they need to be performing. And then we
Mm-hmm.
wonder why. Which is crazy. I mean, there's teachers
Yeah.
that have been around for 20 plus years, like my mom knows. Basically, what she used to tell me is, like, close your door and tell them yes, right? Don't argue, but close your door and do what you got to do so that your children are reading by the time that they leave you.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you have to do that. Mm-hmm.
But it's sad that you have to do
You
that as a
have to.
teacher.
Teachers, I mean, if we want to talk about alarming numbers, it's It's no secret that teachers are quitting left and right. We have a big shortage, and when a 20-year vet teacher is ready to quit, that's a problem because 20 years in the profession is a very long time, and that's someone that truly loves and enjoys what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, how are you really focusing on them, their professional development, their needs inside the classrooms? Because that is something that we have to say. You stated, Marcy, you have 30 students. Well, why do you have 30 students? You know, that's a lot for one adult. Like, we need like my son's school it, and I'm basically considered like the suburbs, but my son's school is 14 kids per class. Like I don't see how you can have 30 students and really even teach anything. Like, you're probably going to be screaming the whole time, hey, you be quiet, you sit down, you move here. By the time you're done with that, that's about 10 minutes of instruction time.
Yeah.
And then the bell rings. So, but listen, if there's any message that I want for parents, educators, and just anyone watching this, is really find what works for you and for
Mm-hmm.
your kid, but you won't know that till you actually start doing the work. What grade level is your kid reading on? Like, do you know how to test them? And if
Mm-hmm.
not, it's okay. I didn't know this either, but start looking for those opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the teachers, like, hey, what are you doing with the kids? What's coming next month? Is there a theme? Is there a particular subject you're going to be, focusing on? And for those that really want to be like hyper involved, community, like all of these different communities, they have local school boards. Are you
Mm-hmm.
going to these meetings? They are making decisions about your kids and what your kid is going to learn, and you're not even there. And there's public access for you to join. So, are you going and lobbying on behalf of your child? Decisions are made, and you won't know because you're not there.
And you don't even have to go in person. A lot of these meetings are happening virtually now, thank you to the pandemic. So, what's your, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not trying to blame the parents, but what is the excuse, right? Like, I constantly, on my son's school, they use the Remind app. A cada rato, they're sending me like coffee with the principal virtually. District 75 is having a
Hmm.
meeting about XYZ. You can join along. The Zoom link is there for you to go. Literally, while you're at work, you can Zoom join it. Okay, you're not going to be unmuted the whole time. You can be muted, but at least you're listening and you're perceiving what's going on. And if you want to step in and say something, you always have the opportunity to do that. But the thing is that you need to be present
Yep.
and you need to account for what's going on in your child's education. You can't leave it up to teachers. Because, like, you're, as I always say, you're your child's biggest advocate, but, like, is no, like, the teacher, yeah, we do care. Obviously, we care about our students and we want all of them to learn.
Yeah.
Pero a quién le va a importar más? Who's going to care more about your child than you as a parent?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
in
Yeah.
that,
Oh, no, no. I was just gonna say, we have to prioritize what's first, and we chose to have these children. Uh, so it's our duty to ensure that they are being maximized and getting what they need to get. And it's not fair to them because they can't make decisions for themselves, so they rely on us to be their biggest advocates and just like they're the biggest, you know, cheerleaders, support, and we have to also be involved to know what's the best way to support them.
it's true. So, in that vein, before summer starts, the podcast is going to be holding an Uptown Literacy event. We are partnering with Dominican Writers Association, and we are going to be having raffles. We're going to be giving you tips and tricks on how to get your child to love reading, and also I'm gonna probably add into one of the panels is like, how do you assess your child and see whether they are reading on level or not, and it's a simple thing. All the materials are accessible online, because that's another thing. A lot of we're not even gonna get into that in this episode, but a lot of schools, they want you to assess the children using like running records, right? Which is I forgot
Mhm.
who invented it, but they don't give you the books. They don't give you anything. They just
Yeah, you got to go figure it out.
muchacha. They're like, oh, we had that, but there's none available. You can find it online. No link, no nothing. So if I can find it as a teacher, I can give you guys the resources, and you can be able to assess your children, and then you have a starting point to know where your child is at, and then from where you want to push them to. So at this event, we're gonna have different panelists coming on. We're gonna teach you different reading approaches, and we're gonna get you guys get the kids excited about reading again. Because the thing is, like, the way I never traveled as a kid, but I knew all this information, and it was just because I was reading. I was reading all these different books and articles and things that were interesting to me, because that's how I traveled. I literally, my mom wasn't one. Girl, you grew up in the Bronx. I grew up here in the Heights, so it's kind of like, similar environments, right? Mami no me dejaba salir para afuera. Where the heck was I going? She didn't even let me play outside. Let me be honest with you. Mami didn't let me play outside. But guess what? I was in the house reading books. So that's how I traveled, and I was able to escape, which is my preference of reading is fantasy, right? But we all need to be able to give our children that love of reading and teach them that we can travel, even if we don't have the economic means at the time. We can travel via books, and we can like learn through other people's experiences, through characters' experiences in books as well. So that's something that I'm very, very passionate about. And right now we're like putting it all together. The Eventbrite link is gonna be live in, I want to say, a week or so. I'm gonna be putting Alvarys's book links, her Amazon book links in the show notes, and then also her consulting agency. I'm gonna put that the website in the show notes as well. I don't know if you want to leave the parents with anything else, Alvarys.
I would say resources shouldn't be a reason to hold your kids back. If you need some sort of resources and there's someone that can offer them to you, reach out. Like, those individuals might really be willing to genuinely help, but they don't know that if you don't reach out. But it's going to take for you to be just as passionate about your kids' education that somebody is passionate about giving it to them.
I agree. So, another thing, we're also partnering with LINC, which is I don't know what I can't, off the top of my head, I can't remember what it stands for, but I know they're an initiative to bring literacy and a joy for reading for all kids in New York City. So they partner with different schools to do like something that in the school I was at before was Tiger Day, right? The kids had a goal. They had to read a certain amount of books by a certain time, and the kids got really, really excited about that. So, I'm going to try and see if I partner with the New York Public Library as well to get free library cards, because that's still around, even though people don't use it anymore because we have access to all
no
these
one
PDFs.
goes. Yeah.
But there's a certain nostalgia. There's like a certain nostalgia for me about opening an actual book and reading it and having it in my hands, as opposed to reading it digitally. And I think there's like some scientific evidence
books.
regarding, I think there's scientific evidence regarding like taking handwritten notes and reading actual books. Something about the way that you learn. I had to look up the article regarding that, but yeah, like it's so easy to like just involve your children. I know that once Aiden got those like basic vocabulary words down, I got him this book set. It was called Alpha Books, and it was literally like a little box.
I haven't heard of them.
Girl, this is like 2008. I don't even know if they're making them anymore.
Okay.
So it's a little box, and it has all letters A to Z. And every book has only 3 pages with different beautiful photographs or like an illustration of a vocabulary word with the picture. That's it. So like if it's an apple, they have a beautiful picture of an apple. If it's art, they'll put a beautiful, painting. And then the child will have the visual and then the thing here, and then they have like it's a manual thing. So like they're flipping the pages and they're looking at the books. That was something that was suggested to me by his ABA teacher, like the early intervention therapist. She was the one that suggested getting those books to help him with that. Another app that we used that was really helpful for him was I taught flashcard app, ITOT, and now I know that they have all types of
I think I know them.
yeah. So they have all types of different flashcards in different categories. And then the cool thing about that is that you can mix it up. So what I used to do the intervention with him was it was basically I would read him the vocabulary word. I would show him the picture. I would have him repeat after me. And then the third time we would say it again, but we would say it together. Right? And then we would go to the next one. And I wouldn't do it for more than 10 minutes. But ahora hay que mandarlo a callarse. He talks so much. But the thing is that
all you need is a few.
Yeah, so then what people don't realize is that speech and reading go hand in hand. So the more your child can read, the better the vocabulary is going to be. 100%. A lot of the students that I see have a hard time writing is because they don't have the fluency in reading that they need to be able to write down those words. Because like, where are you going to get that vocabulary from? Like, we want them to write these high level words, but they're barely reading on a first grade level. So where are they getting these vocabulary words from? And even that, like, because of the computer, like, the autocorrect, these kids are not spelling tampoco.
Yes. I think that's a big issue, but I guess we're gonna leave that for another day. But it's like, oh, if I don't know how to spell, who cares? I'm gonna put it and it's gonna spell check everything for me.
Nah, man.
And I'm like, that's not what we're gonna do.
Especially in the States, as like I'm not protesting because like I am anti state test, because the state test really doesn't really show that your child is actually learning. All it's showing that they can memorize and regurgitate information, and that is helping the school get money. It really has nothing to do with the students. So, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, you need to, like, the reading is going to help with spelling, is going to help with writing, it's going to help with verbal expression as well. So the more your child reads, the better the vocabulary is going to get, and the more they're going to enjoy learning, and they're going to be able to navigate themselves in different environments, not just certain environments that are like normal to them. So with that, comadres, I want to end the episode how I always end it, which is follow me at before we go, Alvarys, you're a very busy woman. Tell me, what do you do for self-care? I ask this to all my guests.
So the first thing, and I started doing this over a year ago, I said I was only going to focus on passion projects. So those don't make me feel like I'm being burned out, because it's truly a passion, the joy and the journey and going through it has been much more rewarding than anything else. So that's my first thing, just finding what my passion is and doing things that are going to gear towards that. And then the second thing is traveling. I mean, we travel every 2 to 3 months somewhere.
I know, I saw that.
So I try to make sure. Yeah, I try. Well, if I'm going to work hard, I'm going to play hard. I'm not the one that's just going to work hard. Like, I need to make sure that I'm present for my family, for myself. I do believe in a lot of facials. I believe in spas. I believe in therapy. So all those different things are a combination of what I do. And it felt at some time like I didn't even have interactions with my spouse because I was so busy. And I reshifted and said, nope, this is not going to happen. Because again, priority. What's first is first, and everything else is going to come. So it's just passion projects, identifying what you're going to focus on, and then creating a timeline for yourself. Like, I know I can't do 30 things at once, and that's something that I came to realization. I wish I could, but that's just not me. So yeah, just travel, enjoy. I sometimes like doing nothing. Like nothing. Unless you have some chisme for me and we can have cafecito and chisme, but I like doing nothing.
So I love that. So yeah, no, definitely. And then like having comadre time, right? That chisme, that's feeding your soul, and it is not even doesn't even have to do with like talking about anybody or being like mean girl stuff. No, like literally
Yeah.
sitting with a friend that feeds your soul and like catching up about life and like confiding in them and just talking to them about things that you don't feel necessarily comfortable with your spouse discussing or whatever. Like that is all part of mental health. Like being able to have somebody to talk to and that
Absolutely.
whose company you enjoy is top tier. So, comadres, I love. Thank you, Alvarys. Thank you so much. This was such a great episode.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm gonna end the episode now. I'm really gonna end it how I always do, which is follow me at Comadreando Pod and follow Alvarys on IG. Can you give us your IG for your consulting business?
Yeah, so it's going to be as dot strategy. So you can follow me there, and I will also go ahead and share with Marcy all of the links if you would want to go ahead and see it, what resources are available.
Okay, awesome. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to send me a Comadre-Gram via email at marcy@comadreandopod.com or slide up into my DMs. Please feel free to visit our website to catch up on the latest blog posts, find out about future events. The event is going to be posted there. It's going to be Friday, June 9th, and we already have the location. It's going to be at Alianza Dominicana Cultural Center, 530 West 166th Street. Also, we're having a Mother's Day happy hour, and that is also on the website. Get your official Comadreando merch, and thank you for spending time with your comadres. Alvarys, you're a comadre of the show.
Yay.
Welcome to the club. All right, everyone. Have a good one and be kind to each other. Bye.
Hello, comadre.
Hey, comadre.
Do you have a minute for comadre time?